Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today, we're going to talk about Bitcoin, the road to recovery. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. Let's go ahead and jump in. So, the road to recovery for Bitcoin will not necessarily be an easy one. Now, I know everyone is super bullish this morning, and hey, why shouldn't you be? We have a nice little candle here up about 9%. But as we said before, don't schedule your Forbes interview just yet. I mean, I know some of you guys are already on the line. You bought down here and you're ready to do your interview. Let's hold off a little bit because one of the things we've mentioned many times, is that things don't necessarily happen in a day. Okay, so time in general, in the market cycle, in the grand scheme of the market cycle, time is on our side. Now, what happens in the immediate month or two, I don't know. I really don't know. And I think that this is where we are, right? This is just where we are. My guess is at some point, either this week or in a few weeks, sometime, within the next few weeks or so, we'll probably come back up and test the bull market support band. Now, again, this is a moving target, so don't get this number in your head and then take that number to the bank later on. The bull market support band, again, is a 20-week SMA and the 21-week EMA, and it currently ranges from 48,609 to 44,673. Okay, so that is the line in the sand. It's the line in the sand. If Bitcoin does not get above that line, so if Bitcoin can't get above that, then you should know that altcoins will get absolutely hammered anytime Bitcoin pulls back. How many of you guys have already experienced it already? So remember when Bitcoin was back up here, anytime we had a pullback by Bitcoin, it was like altcoins sort of cared, but they were still putting in new all-time highs the next week, right? They're just putting in new all-time highs the next week, because we recognize that the market was still relatively bullish. Bitcoin was above the bull market support band. When it's below it, you see the shift. The shift we talked about for the last 6 months. What is that shift? What is it? Basically, what it means now, when Bitcoin goes down on any given day, all coins get wrecked. I mean, absolutely wrecked. They go down more than people can think. People will say, well, I couldn't help but buy, such and such altcoin at this price because it seemed like it was on sale, and then the next day it drops another 30%. So it's a dangerous mindset to be in. Because what happens in crypto is, especially with altcoins, you're so used to only seeing them go up. So when they pull back 50%, you think that it has to be on sale. But if Bitcoin keeps dropping, the sale will just get better and better, right? 50% off sale, and then the next day it's like a 60% off sale. So be careful. Don't schedule the interviews just yet. Remember, this is our line in the sand. And I know a lot of us, I know a lot of you guys would like to just see an immediate V-shaped recovery. And hey, if we get one, we get one. And I think this will be seen as a great time to have loaded back up. Okay? As I've mentioned before, with Bitcoin, there's times to buy and there's times to sell, of course. In my experience, buying when Bitcoin's 50% down, it's not the worst time to buy. Okay, it's not always the best time, but what do we know? It's not the worst time, because the worst time would be before it drops 50%. So I mean, if you go back to say 2019, when it dropped from 14K down to around 7K, and even if you were buying over here, yes, you would have experienced the pandemic crash, but we were still pretty, in short order, we were back above it. And even these buys, while they temporarily would have been not looking so great, we knew time was on our side. Eventually they'll be looking pretty good, and it's not going to matter whether you bought here and then if you continue to DCA over here. Who really cares, right? Who really cares? It's just nickel and diming at that point. If you go back even further, and you go to market cycle tops, and you don't buy Bitcoin at 20K, but then instead you bought it at 10K, Yeah, it would have been a while before you were in, doing quite well, but you wouldn't have had to wait for you wouldn't have had to wait 3 years, because even your buys at 10K would have been looking pretty good in the summer of 2019. So, as I said before, there's, they're buying Bitcoin at a 50% discount is not always the best time to buy, because we know it could go down lower, but it's certainly not the worst. That is something we can take to the bank. We know it's certainly not the worst, because the worst would have been up here. What I would be looking for on the road to recovery for Bitcoin is either, can we get above the bull market support band? That is what needs to happen, and it might not happen in a week. It might not happen in 2 weeks. Now, one of the things that could catch people off guard is what happens if we rally back up to it over the next few weeks? What happens if we go back up to it this week? Well, I mean, it could correspond to us going just shy of 50K. And at that point, if that were to happen, and even if it doesn't happen this week, if it happens next week, it could be close to 47K, and so on and so forth. So if Bitcoin were to rally, say, like $10,000, the entire market is going to be pretty bullish, right? A lot of people are going to be fairly bullish. And it's at that point in time, whenever that does happen, whether it happens this week or say 4 weeks from now or 6 weeks from now, whenever it happens, the market will be relatively bullish, because rallying back up to that level will get people to think that we have to be back on track. And I'm telling you now, look for us closing above it and testing it as support. That is what you would want to see. If we go back up to it, and then you go all in or something, what do you do if we just get rejected? What do you do in that situation? That is the thing we need to consider. So I'd say we need to take it one step at a time. And we're going to be here every part of the journey. We're going to be here every step of the way. We've seen it before, where we go below the bull market support band, and then we go up, and then everyone's super bullish again, and then we still got rejected. And it took us a little bit more time to get back above it. So we're in the same situation today. Are we going to go back up to it and break it? That is the question. You can see there have been other times we went back up to it and we actually closed above it, but then we were unable to hold it as support. So remember, that's key. It's key in establishing the bull market. We want to go above it, and then we want to hold it as support. We did the exact same thing in 2020. We went above it. We didn't even consider this as support. You might have said this was considered support, but hey, we want to actually be testing it. We went up, and then we came back down. We said, okay, we tested at a support for 6 weeks. We're good to go. Things are looking bullish. We're good to go. Right now, we're not even above it. So the road to recovery will involve a grind above the 20-week SMA, or the 21-week EMA if you prefer. A grind above it, a close above it, a retest of it, and then, and only then, I think, would it be time to really get bullish. Until that time, we're more or less just playing in the sandbox. We're playing in the sandbox, because if we go back up to it and we get rejected, it's just going to be the same thing. Okay, it's going to be the same thing. So again, I should be clear. I do not know which of these scenarios will play out, but I do think that if we do continue to come down, and we get rejected, if we rally up to it, we get rejected, we come down, or if we don't go in the short term and we just keep coming down, I would say it just represents an opportunity. And I've told you guys, I think that this bull market will exceed. It should take us to 6 figures. I'm not as convinced of the $300,000 predictions. You guys know that. But I certainly think that $100,000 is on the cards. Obviously, a lot of people would like it to happen in 2021. It could happen in 2021, right? It could happen, but I want people to be prepared for it could also not happen in 2021. Maybe it happens in 2022, okay? So let's just take it one step at a time. It's May, we're almost in June. By the end of June, we're going to be looking at, all right, the first half of the year is behind us. Where are we at that point? Are we still getting rejected and we're coming back down? If we do, it's going to be a grind. It's going to be a grind to recovery, especially on altcoins. It's going to be a grind to recovery. So the road to recovery, we know what the roadmap is. We need to get above the 20-week SMA. We need to close above it. We need to come back down, test it as support. And then we'll be looking towards what's next in Bitcoin's journey. And once we get back above that level, and if we come back down and test it as support, then maybe we can talk about heading to that six-figure milestone. Until then, until that time happens, you could look at this, at this area over here as sort of a second chance, or a reloading zone, if you will. However low it goes, in my opinion, only represents a better opportunity. And by the way, if you do buy Bitcoin, and let's say you bought a lot of Bitcoin at, at say this level, and you have a multi-year time frame, like let's say you have a multi-year time frame, then I think you'll still be doing okay. I mean, again, if you look at a multi-year time frame of Bitcoin, it does tend to work out pretty well. Yes, you could experience losses in the short term, which you have if you were buying Bitcoin at 50K. But hey, in the grand scheme of the entire cycle, I do believe time is on your side, and that it's just going to take us a while to grind through. Okay. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. If you want to know how I'm navigating these markets, make sure you check out the sale on the premium list. You can find a link to that in the description below as well. Make sure you lock in the lower rate. And if you want to check out the merch for Into the Cryptoverse, we have a link to that in the description below as well. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, click the bell icon to turn on alerts, and give the video a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time. Bye.